Let me know in the comments which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe.
It's still surreal to think about how one single day could flip your entire life upside down. I mean, completely. 180-degree turn, the kind you only ever see in movies. Except this was my life, and trust me, there was nothing Hollywood about scrubbing toilets at Langford Dynamics. For months, maybe even years, I was just invisible, part of the background noise, the person who quietly emptied your trash can and made sure the coffee machine was always full. No one really saw Ava, the cleaning lady. I was just a fixture, a necessity they barely registered, and I was okay with that, mostly. It was a job, it paid the bills, and it allowed me to keep to myself, which after everything, was all I really wanted. That Tuesday started like any other. Early alarm, quick coffee, the familiar commute, and then the routine of making my rounds on the executive floor. There was a palpable tension in the air that morning, though. Even I could feel it, and I was usually oblivious to the high stakes world these people inhabited. Whispers followed Mr. Hayes, the CEO, and his entourage. They looked stressed, agitated, like the weight of the world was on their perfectly tailored shoulders. I overheard snippets of conversations. The deal, millions, tomorrow. Enough to understand something big was about to happen, or maybe fall apart. Little did I know, I was about to play an unexpected part in it all. I was tidying up the outer office of the main conference room when the commotion started. Raised voices, frustrated sighs, and then Mr. Hayes's booming voice, laced with a clear edge of desperation. "There has to be someone. Anyone!" he exclaimed, and the frantic energy in the room spilled out into the hallway. Apparently, their translator, the one crucial for finalizing this massive $300 million agreement with some very important investors from the Middle East, had some sort of emergency and was nowhere to be found. Panic was setting in, thick and suffocating. You could practically taste the disaster looming. Executives were pacing, phones pressed to their ears, their faces growing increasingly grim. They were scrambling, calling every contact, every agency, but time was ticking away. The investors were due any minute, and the linchpin of the entire operation was missing. I kept my head down, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible, just wanting to finish my tasks and disappear. It wasn't my world, these high-powered deals and international negotiations. I was just the cleaning lady. What could I possibly do? That thought echoed in my mind, a familiar refrain of my perceived insignificance. But then, something shifted. As I emptied a wastebasket near the conference room door, I heard Mr. Hayes speaking again, his voice tight with barely suppressed fury. He was on the phone, and I caught a few words in Arabic, a language that had been a part of my life since I was a little girl, spoken with love by my father. My ears perked up involuntarily. They were clearly in a bind, and the urgency in his tone was undeniable. It was like a switch flipped inside me, a long-dormant instinct suddenly awakening. Before I could even fully process what I was doing, the words were out of my mouth, hesitant at first, then gaining confidence. "Excuse me," I said, my voice surprisingly steady in the tense atmosphere. Perhaps I can help?" You could have heard a pin drop. Every single eye in that frantic executive hallway swiveled to me, the cleaning lady holding a dustpan and a spray bottle. Mr. Hayes, mid-sentence with someone on his phone, actually stopped talking and just stared. The look on his face was a mix of utter disbelief and a hint of something unreadable. Annoyance, maybe? It was like I'd just announced I was a secret astronaut. The silence stretched, and for a split second, I wanted to melt into the floor, to just vanish and pretend I'd never said anything. What was I thinking? This was insane. Then, Mr. Hayes slowly lowered his phone, his eyes still fixed on me. "Help?" he finally repeated, the word dripping with skepticism. "Help with what exactly, Ava?" He knew my name, which was a surprise in itself, but the way he said it made it clear he saw me as nothing more than the person who cleaned his office. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. This was it. This was my moment to either sink or swim, to either retreat back into my invisible world or take a chance. The thought of those millions, of the entire deal crumbling, pushed me forward. "With the Arabic, sir," I managed to say, my voice a little stronger this time. I understand you need a translator." I'm fluent. My father was a linguistics professor in Sudan. He taught me from a very young age. We spoke multiple languages at home. Arabic was one of them. The words tumbled out, a confession of a life I'd kept carefully hidden for so long. The stunned silence returned, but this time it felt different. Less skeptical, more bewildered. It was as if a painting had suddenly started talking. Mr. Hayes's gaze sharpened, assessing me, trying to find a lie in my eyes. I stood my ground, clutching the dustpan handle, my knuckles white. He looked at one of his executives, then back at me. The clock was ticking. They were desperate, and clearly, they had no other options. The desperation must have outweighed the absurdity of the situation. He sighed, a deep, tired sound. "All right, Ava," he said, a note of pure resignation in his voice. "Come in. Let's see what you've got." Stepping into that lavish conference room felt like entering another dimension. The large oval table, the expensive leather chairs, the city skyline stretching endlessly outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was a world away from the mops and buckets I usually dealt with. The air was thick with the scent of anxiety and expensive cologne. I walked past the nervous executives, my cleaning cart still out in the hallway, a stark reminder of where I came from. Every instinct told me to run, but the image of my father, patiently teaching me different alphabets and complex grammar rules, kept me rooted. This wasn't just about the company anymore. It was about honoring his legacy and proving to myself that I was more than just invisible. The investors arrived moments later, a group of distinguished-looking gentlemen, their faces serious. Mr. Hayes, with a visible effort, introduced me simply as our interpreter for today, Ava. He didn't mention my actual job, and for that, I was grateful. It would have only made things more awkward. They looked at me with polite curiosity, maybe a tiny bit of surprise to see a young woman in my position, but their expressions were mostly unreadable. I nodded, offered a small, deferential smile, and took my place at the table, a stark contrast to the previous few hours spent pushing a mop bucket around. The meeting began, and it was intense. The air crackled with a mix of anticipation and underlying tension. Mr. Hayes started speaking, laying out the terms, the vision, the grand promises of the deal. My mind, which usually drifted to grocery lists or overdue bills, was now fully engaged, listening intently to every word, processing it, and then translating it into fluent, nuanced Arabic. It felt natural, like breathing. It had been years since I'd used it in a professional, high-stakes setting, but it was all still there, ingrained, thanks to my father's tireless dedication. As I translated, I didn't just parrot words. I found myself instinctively picking up on the subtleties, the unspoken meanings, the cultural nuances that were so crucial in these kinds of negotiations. There were moments when Mr. Hayes or one of his team would use a phrase that, if translated literally, would have been completely misunderstood or even offensive to the Arab delegation. My heart would skip a beat, but I'd quickly rephrase, adapting the idiom, choosing the right word that conveyed the intent rather than just the direct translation. It was like walking a tightrope, knowing that one wrong step could send everything crashing down. I could feel eyes on me, not just the investors, but the Langford executives too. Their initial skepticism slowly morphed into something else, a quiet surprise, then what almost looked like respect. They began to lean in, listening more closely to my interpretations, observing the subtle nods of understanding from the Arab delegates. There was a particular moment when one of the investors made a complex point about market volatility in their region, using a specific cultural reference. Mr. Hayes looked momentarily lost, but I understood perfectly. I translated it, adding a brief, concise explanation of the reference, and the investor's face softened into a rare smile. It wasn't just about language, it was about connection. I saw the investors relax, their postures easing, as they realized they were truly being understood, not just by an I.O. interpreter, but by someone who grasped their world. I found myself not just translating, but sometimes anticipating their questions, or subtly guiding Mr. Hayes to rephrase something for better reception. It was an exhilarating, terrifying dance. The $300 million deal hung in the balance with every word, every carefully chosen phrase, and I, Ava, the invisible cleaning lady, was holding the entire thread in my hands. Here are the next 5 paragraphs. The hours stretched on, feeling both like an eternity and a blink. My throat was getting dry, and my brain felt like it was doing 100 laps a minute, but I couldn't stop. The stakes were too high. There was a particularly tricky point where the Langford team was pushing for a deadline that simply wasn't culturally feasible for the Omar International representatives. I saw the investors' faces tighten, their expressions becoming guarded. It was a make-or-break moment, a real deadlock. Mr. Hayes looked at me, a silent plea in his eyes, knowing I was their only bridge. Instead of translating directly, I paused, choosing my words carefully. I explained, in a calm, respectful tone, the importance of patience and building trust in Arab business culture, suggesting a slightly extended timeline that would allow for better relationship building, which would ultimately benefit both parties more in the long run. It wasn't just translation. It was a delicate act of cultural diplomacy. I watched as the investors' faces softened, a flicker of understanding and appreciation passing between them. That small adjustment, that subtle shift in approach, made all the difference. It was during one of their internal discussions, when I was translating for the Omar International team, that I caught a detail, a seemingly minor point about a specific clause, almost hidden in the legal jargon, that would have significantly disadvantaged Langford dynamics down the line. It was a detail that would have slipped past any translator who wasn't deeply immersed in both languages and cultural practices, or someone who wasn't paying absolute laser-focused attention. My stomach dropped. I knew I had to say something, even if it meant stepping further out of line. I waited for a lull in the conversation, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. "Excuse me, Mr. Hayes," I interjected, my voice softer than I intended, but firm. "There's a small detail in paragraph 6 regarding the liability clause. In Arabic, as it's currently worded, it could be interpreted to shift a much larger portion of future risk onto Langford dynamics than I believe you intend. It's a very subtle linguistic nuance, but a significant legal one." The words felt huge, hanging in the air. I braced myself for a rebuke, for him to tell me to just stick to translating. But it didn't come. Instead, Mr. Hayes's eyes widened slightly, and he exchanged a quick, intense look with his legal counsel. They immediately pulled up the document, poring over the exact phrasing I'd mentioned. I watched their expressions shift from skepticism to dawning realization, then to outright alarm. It was clear I had just uncovered a critical error, something that could have cost them dearly. The air in the room, which had been thick with tension, suddenly took on a new charge, one of quiet shock, and a flicker of something that felt a lot like gratitude. The legal counsel, a sharp woman named Ms. Davies, quickly conferred with Mr. Hayes. Their hushed voices were intense, punctuated by the rustling of papers. They re-examined the Arabic text, then the English translation, and it was clear my assessment was spot on. The subtle difference I'd pointed out would have indeed created a loophole, a costly one, for Langford dynamics. The sheer relief that washed over Mr. Hayes's face was almost tangible. It was like watching a weight being lifted, a silent testament to the disaster I'd just helped them avert. They made the necessary adjustments right there, discussing the revised phrasing with the Omar International team, who, to their credit, seemed genuinely unaware of the potential misinterpretation. Or, if they were aware, they certainly didn't let on. The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. The tension evaporated, replaced by a sense of common purpose, almost a camaraderie. I wasn't just a translator anymore. I was part of the solution, an unexpected, indispensable piece of the puzzle. It felt empowering, in a way I hadn't felt in a very long time. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only another hour or so, the pens came out. The documents were signed. A collective sigh of relief, quiet but profound, swept through the room from the Langford side. The $300 million deal, the one that had been teetering on the brink of collapse just hours earlier, was sealed. Handshakes were exchanged, polite smiles all around. The investors rose, their faces now relaxed, their business done. As they left, one of them, the elder gentleman who had smiled at my cultural explanation earlier, paused and gave me a genuine, warm nod. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. Then, it was just the Langford team and me left in the opulent conference room. The exhaustion hit me then, a wave of fatigue washing over me, but it was mixed with an overwhelming sense of disbelief and a quiet triumph. I was still holding the dustpan, by the way, a ridiculous detail that suddenly struck me as incredibly funny. Mr. Hayes turned to me, his usual stern expression replaced by something softer, something akin to awe. His eyes, which had always seen right through me, were now truly seeing me. He didn't say anything immediately, just stood there, looking at me. It was an awkward silence, but not an uncomfortable one. It was heavy with unspoken words, with the enormity of what had just happened. I half expected him to thank me and tell me to go back to my cleaning duties, but he didn't. Instead, he took a step closer, a genuine, if slightly bewildered smile finally gracing his lips. "Ava," he said, his voice quiet, almost reverent. "What just happened here? And who exactly are you?" I finally put the dustpan down, leaning it against the wall. The absurdity of it all hit me again, standing there in my cleaning uniform, face to face with the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, having just saved his biggest deal. I took a deep breath, trying to collect my thoughts. How do you explain a lifetime of quiet existence suddenly bursting into public view? "My name is Ava, sir," I started, my voice still a little hoarse from hours of translating. "And like I said, my father was a linguistics professor in Sudan. He believed in languages, truly believed they were the keys to understanding the world." I went on to tell him a little more, about growing up surrounded by books and dialects, about how he'd made learning multiple languages feel like an adventure, not a chore. Arabic, French, Swahili, they were just part of our everyday life. After things changed for us, and we had to leave Sudan, I just stopped talking about it. It became a private thing, something that connected me to a past that was too painful to revisit. I never thought those skills would be relevant here. Not in this life. Not in this job. They felt like a secret, a part of myself I'd buried deep down. Mr. Hayes listened, truly listened without interrupting, his gaze steady. There was no judgment, only a deep, contemplative look. When I finished, he just nodded slowly, his expression a mixture of profound thought and something that looked a lot like regret. Regret for not seeing me before, I suppose. It was a humbling moment, watching this powerful man grapple with the realization that someone he'd overlooked completely had just been his unexpected savior. It felt like a lifetime had passed in just a few hours. The next few hours, and frankly, the days that followed, were a blur of meetings, introductions, and a completely new reality. I didn't go back to cleaning. Not that day. Not ever again. Mr. Hayes immediately pulled me into his inner circle. The other executives, who had once barely acknowledged my presence, now looked at me with a mix of awe and a slightly sheepish deference. The whispers in the hallways weren't about the deal anymore. They were about me, Ava, the cleaning lady who spoke fluent Arabic and saved Langford Dynamics. My phone, which was usually silent, started buzzing constantly. Invitations to meetings, requests for my insights, even apologies from people who probably couldn't recall my face from a week ago. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and frankly, a little dizzying. This wasn't just a job promotion. It was a complete shattering of the glass ceiling I didn't even realize I was under. It was the moment my hidden potential, something I'd suppressed for so long, finally broke through and demanded to be seen. The initial whirlwind slowly, very slowly, began to settle into a new routine, though nothing about it felt routine. My desk was now on the executive floor, right outside Mr. Hayes' office. I was no longer just interpreting. I was attending meetings, poring over contracts, and offering insights on cultural subtleties that the team hadn't even considered. It turned out my father hadn't just taught me languages. He'd instilled in me a deep appreciation for the nuances of human interaction, a skill that proved surprisingly valuable. In the cutthroat world of corporate deals, I started noticing things, small details that would have been missed. A seemingly casual comment from an international client that actually hinted at a deeper concern. A gesture that in one culture meant agreement, but in another, mild confusion. I found myself becoming a bridge, not just for words, but for understanding. It was exhilarating to use my brain in this way, to feel challenged and useful, to realize that everything I'd learned, everything I'd dismissed as irrelevant, was actually my superpower. There was a particular instance with a new potential partner from East Asia. Their initial proposals were met with a lot of head-scratching from the Langford team because their approach to negotiations was so indirect. I remembered my father talking about high-context cultures and how much goes unsaid or is communicated through subtle cues. I explained to Mr. Hayes that their vague language wasn't a lack of commitment, but rather a sign of respect and a desire to build a relationship first, rather than jump straight to the hard numbers. It completely changed how Langford approached the preliminary discussions. Instead of pushing for direct answers, they learned to listen more, to offer gestures of goodwill, to invest in the relationship before diving into the specifics. It was a complete paradigm shift for many of the executives, who were used to a much more Western, direct style of business. And because of it, we started building genuine connections, laying the groundwork for partnerships that would last, not just one-off deals. It was incredible to see. This wasn't just about avoiding linguistic pitfalls anymore. It was about creating true understanding, about building trust where before there might have been miscommunication or even offense. My role evolved from translator to cultural advisor, then quickly to strategic consultant. I was helping Langford Dynamics navigate a global landscape they hadn't truly understood before, and every day, I felt a quiet sense of astonishment, realizing that the invisible Ava was now an indispensable part of this massive corporate machine. With each passing day, my confidence grew, not in an arrogant way, but in a quiet, steady realization of my own value. It wasn't just about speaking languages. It was about connecting dots, seeing patterns, and offering perspectives that had been entirely missing. I found myself speaking up more in meetings, not just when asked, but when I genuinely felt I had something important to contribute. And the surprising thing was, people listened. They really listened. It was a sensation I hadn't experienced in years, this feeling of being heard, of my thoughts actually mattering. Mr. Hayes in particular became more than just my boss. He became a mentor, in a way. He'd often pull me into his office, not for a formal meeting, but just to bounce ideas off me, to get my take on a complex situation involving international partners. He started relying on my intuition as much as my linguistic skills. He seemed genuinely fascinated by my background, always asking about Sudan, about my father, about the journey that had brought me to Langford Dynamics. It was a level of personal connection I never imagined having with a CEO. I remember one afternoon we were reviewing a proposal for a new market entry. He looked at me, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, Ava," he said, leaning back in his chair, "it's not just the words you translate. It's the understanding you bring. It's like you can see the whole chessboard, while the rest of us are just focused on our individual pieces." It was a simple comment, but it struck me deeply. It wasn't just a compliment. It was a recognition of something far beyond my initial job description, something intrinsic to who I was. That kind of recognition was transformative. For so long, I had felt defined by my circumstances, by the limitations of my visible role. Now, I was being defined by my capabilities, by my intellect, by the unique perspective I brought to the table. It wasn't just a career change. It was an identity shift. The invisible Ava was slowly but surely fading away, replaced by someone stronger, more self-assured, someone who dared to take up space and speak her mind. The best part was, it felt completely natural. There was no sudden dramatic transformation in my personality. I was still Ava, just Ava, but finally unleashed. I dressed. Differently now, of course, but the core of me, the quiet observer, the one who found solace in language, was still there. The only difference was that now, my observations and my linguistic understanding were seen as assets, not just quirks. It was liberating to finally integrate those parts of myself that I had kept hidden for so long. My involvement wasn't just about individual deals anymore. Mr. Hayes started asking me to weigh in on bigger, more strategic decisions, particularly anything with an international component. He'd often say, "Ava, what's the Ava perspective on this?" It became a running joke, but it truly meant that he valued a viewpoint that extended beyond the traditional corporate lens. It was a refreshing change from the insular world I'd observed from the cleaning cart. The partnership with Omar International, the one I'd helped salvage, blossomed into something far more significant than just a single deal. It wasn't just about immediate profits. It was about building a lasting bridge. Their representatives genuinely appreciated the cultural sensitivity and deep understanding that Langford Dynamics, now largely influenced by my input, demonstrated. It became a model for how the company could operate on a global scale, not just efficiently, but ethically and respectfully. This deeper connection led to discussions about shared values, about leaving a positive mark beyond just financial transactions. I found myself in conversations about community, about opportunity, and about the sheer number of talented people out there who, like me, might be overlooked because their skills didn't fit neatly into traditional boxes or their backgrounds weren't immediately obvious. It was a powerful realization, and it started to spark an idea in my mind, one I barely dared to whisper. The idea was simple, yet profound. What if we could harness this newfound understanding, this ability to see potential where others didn't, and turn it into something tangible? Something that could empower others? I saw so many young women, so many immigrants, so many people from diverse backgrounds with incredible untapped talents. They just needed a chance, a platform, a mentor, someone to truly see them. It was a vision that felt deeply personal, almost a tribute to my father's belief in education and potential. I brought it up tentatively to Mr. Hayes one day, just a casual mention over coffee. I expected him to dismiss it as a nice but impractical notion. Instead, his eyes lit up. He listened intently as I spoke about the forgotten dreamers, about building a foundation that could offer linguistic training, cultural immersion, and mentorship to young Black women, to immigrants, to anyone whose potential was obscured by circumstance. He didn't just listen. He immediately started talking about making it a reality. That conversation with Mr. Hayes felt like the true turning point, even more so than saving the deal. It shifted from just my individual triumph to something much bigger, something with the potential for real, lasting impact. The idea of the foundation, initially just a flicker, began to solidify into a concrete plan. Mr. Hayes didn't just passively agree. He became an active champion, throwing the full weight of Langford Dynamics resources behind it. It was incredible to witness, this powerful CEO dedicating himself to a cause I'd only dared to dream of. We started meeting regularly, not just about company deals, but about the foundation. He introduced me to the legal teams, the HR department, the marketing specialists. Everyone was buzzing with a strange mix of excitement and curiosity. They were still getting used to me being Ava, the strategic advisor, not Ava, the cleaning lady. And now, I was spearheading a philanthropic initiative. It was a lot to take in, for all of us, but the momentum was undeniable. Setting it up wasn't easy, though. There were endless legal documents, logistical hurdles, and debates about the scope and mission. I found myself drawing on every ounce of resilience I had, every lesson learned from my own journey. There were days I felt overwhelmed, doubted myself, wondered if I was truly capable of such a massive undertaking. But then I'd think of my father, of his unwavering belief in the power of knowledge and opportunity, and it would push me forward. Every step of the process felt deeply personal. This wasn't just a corporate social responsibility project. It was a way to honor my past, to acknowledge the struggles I had faced, and to ensure that others wouldn't have to navigate those same paths alone. It was about creating a legacy, not just for Langford Dynamics, but for all the forgotten dreamers out there, the ones whose talents were obscured by circumstance, just as mine had been. The foundation, eventually named the Catalyst Initiative, became my passion project, intertwined with my daily responsibilities at Langford. It was more than just a job. It was a purpose, and seeing it take shape, seeing the plans for mentorship programs, language scholarships, and cultural exchange initiatives filled me with a hope I hadn't felt in years. It was a testament to how one unexpected day could not only change one life, but begin to change many, many more. The day the Catalyst Initiative was officially launched felt monumental. There was a press conference, speeches, and an energy that buzzed with genuine excitement. I stood beside Mr. Hayes, no longer in the background, but at the forefront. He introduced me not just as a key executive at Langford Dynamics, but as the driving force behind the foundation. Hearing him speak about my journey, about the very purpose of the initiative being born from a moment of crisis and unexpected revelation, was incredibly powerful. It was strange, seeing my own story, the one I had kept hidden for so long, now being shared with the world. But it wasn't just my story. It was a testament to potential, to challenging assumptions, and to the profound impact of simply giving someone a chance. The media, initially curious about the cleaning lady who saved the deal, now focused on the deeper narrative, the transformation, the resilience, and the new legacy being built. It was humbling, to say the least. The response was overwhelming. Applications started pouring in almost immediately. Stories from young women, from immigrants, from people who felt unseen and unheard, resonated deeply. We weren't just offering scholarships. We were offering a lifeline, a pathway to recognition and opportunity. Seeing the hope in their eyes, reading their heartfelt essays, it was confirmation that every struggle, every moment of doubt I'd ever felt, had led to something truly meaningful. My day-to-day at Langford Dynamics also shifted. While I still played a crucial role in international strategy, a significant portion of my time was now dedicated to the Catalyst initiative. It wasn't just about managing it. It was about building relationships, connecting with the beneficiaries, and ensuring that the foundation stayed true to its mission. It was a balance, but one that felt incredibly rewarding, like all the pieces of my life were finally clicking into place. There were still moments when I'd catch myself, looking at the gleaming floors, or passing a cleaning cart, and remember where I'd started. It was a constant, subtle reminder of the incredible, almost unbelievable turn my life had taken. From scrubbing floors to shaping corporate strategy and empowering forgotten dreamers, it was a journey that still, to this day, leaves me a little breathless. It showed me that true power isn't in a title or a salary, but in the ability to recognize and unlock potential, both in yourself and in others. Looking back, it's not just the external changes that stand out, but the internal ones. The fear that used to cling to me, the quiet resignation I'd carried for so long, slowly started to dissipate. I found a voice I didn't even realize I had, not just in boardrooms, but in my own life. I learned that being quiet doesn't mean being voiceless, and that sometimes the most profound impact comes from the most unexpected places. It's a lesson I try to carry with me every single day. The Catalyst initiative quickly gained momentum. We started with a pilot program, small at first, focusing on language immersion and professional mentorship for a handful of young women. The results were immediate and inspiring. Seeing their faces light up with understanding, watching them gain confidence and clarity in their career paths, felt more rewarding than any multi-million-dollar deal. It was living proof that opportunity, when given, can truly change a trajectory. Langford Dynamics itself seemed to undergo a subtle but significant transformation. My presence and the success of the Catalyst initiative seemed to infuse a new kind of awareness into the company culture. There was a greater emphasis on diversity, on looking beyond traditional qualifications, and on fostering an environment where talent could truly flourish, no matter where it came from. It was a ripple effect, starting from that one chaotic Tuesday morning. I still have moments, even now, when I walk into a high-level meeting, and I glance around at the powerful people in the room, and a small, quiet part of me remembers pushing that cleaning cart through these very same hallways. It's a grounding feeling, a reminder of the journey. It keeps me humble, but also incredibly grateful for the twist of fate that brought me here, for the crisis that became my unexpected opportunity. It's been years since that day, but the surprise of it still resonates. It's a constant reminder that life can throw you the most incredible curveballs, and sometimes those curveballs are disguised blessings. My life is a testament to the fact that sometimes all it takes is one moment, one unexpected revelation, to shatter every preconceived notion, both your own and others, and unlock a future you never even dared to dream of. The collaboration with Omar International, born out of that chaotic day, deepened significantly over time. It wasn't just about successful deals. It evolved into a true strategic alliance, with both companies genuinely committed to mutual growth and shared values. My understanding of their culture, honed over years, proved invaluable in fostering this enduring relationship. It truly became a partnership built on respect, a testament to how stepping outside traditional business norms can yield extraordinary results. I found myself traveling more, visiting the Omar International offices, experiencing their world firsthand. Each trip was a learning experience, solidifying my belief that true global business isn't just about transactions, but about bridging cultural divides. It was thrilling to be at the forefront of this new approach, to see the tangible results of empathy and understanding manifesting in multi-million-dollar ventures. It was a far cry from my previous life, a journey I still marvel at. My role at Langford Dynamics became increasingly complex and rewarding. I was no longer just the person who knew Arabic. I was the one who could foresee cultural clashes, navigate intricate social dynamics, and advise on global expansion strategies with a depth that no one else on the team possessed. It was a unique position, one that had been carved out of a moment of sheer desperation and my own unexpected revelation. The irony of it all still hits me sometimes. For years I had walked those hallways, an unseen figure, observing everything from the periphery. Now, I was central to the company's most vital global initiatives, my insights sought after, my opinions valued. It felt like a fundamental shift, not just in my life, but in the company's very DNA. We were learning to operate in a more inclusive, more globally aware way, and I was proud to be a part of that change. There's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that the success of the Catalyst initiative isn't just a corporate talking point, it's genuinely changing lives. We've seen young women secure incredible internships, go on to prestigious universities, and land jobs they never thought possible. Each success story reinforces the core belief that potential is universal, but opportunity is not. And to be even a small part of providing that opportunity is the greatest reward of all. There are days when I still wake up and have to pinch myself. It's not just the fancy office or the important meetings. It's the profound shift in my own self-perception. I used to shy away from attention, comfortable in my anonymity. Now, I find myself embracing opportunities to speak, to share my story, to advocate for the very people I once was. It's a complete reversal, and one I'm still navigating, honestly. This journey has redefined what success means to me. It's not about the money, though that's certainly a welcome change from juggling bills. It's about impact. It's about knowing that because I spoke up that day, because I dared to reveal a hidden part of myself, doors are now opening for countless others. That feeling, that sense of purpose, is far more valuable than any corporate title or bonus. I often think about destiny, about how seemingly random events can converge to create something extraordinary. If that translator hadn't had an emergency, if I hadn't been in that hallway at that exact moment, if Mr. Hayes hadn't been desperate enough to listen to a cleaning lady, would any of this have happened? It's a fascinating, almost mystical thought, how a chain of coincidences led to such a profound transformation. My relationship with my past has also changed. What was once a source of quiet pain and hidden identity, my Sudanese roots and my father's teachings, is now my greatest strength. I speak about my background with pride, not just as a part of my personal story, but as the very foundation of my unique skills and perspective. It's liberating to finally own every single part of who I am. And yet, despite all the changes, there's still a part of me that's just Ava, the girl who loved languages and quiet contemplation. The core hasn't changed, only the context. I still appreciate the simple things, perhaps even more now, because I know how quickly everything can shift. It's a constant reminder to cherish every moment, every opportunity, and to never underestimate the quiet power of simply being yourself. The Catalyst initiative isn't just a small program anymore. It's grown significantly. We've expanded our reach, partnering with educational institutions and other nonprofits to offer more comprehensive programs. It's incredible to see how a single idea, born from a desperate moment, has blossomed into something so robust, creating a real pipeline for talent that might otherwise have been missed. The initial success stories have become powerful testimonials, attracting more support and resources. We now host regular workshops and mentorship sessions, bringing in industry leaders to guide and inspire our participants. I'm often asked to share my story at these events, and while it still feels a little strange to be in the spotlight, I understand the importance of it. If my journey can inspire even one person to believe in their own hidden potential, then it's worth stepping out of my comfort zone. It's about paying it forward, something my father always believed in. The foundation has also elevated Langford Dynamics' reputation far beyond its traditional business dealings. We're seen as a company that's not just about profit, but about purpose. This renewed image has attracted new talent, new partners, and a different kind of respect in the industry. It's proof that doing good isn't just good for the soul. It can be good for business, too, fostering a more sustainable and ethical model. Sometimes, I'll be at an airport or a cafe, and someone will recognize me. They'll usually mention the story, that viral moment of the cleaning lady saving the deal. It's always a little disorienting, but also heartwarming. They'll often tell me how my story inspired them, or someone they know, to take a chance, to speak up. It's a powerful reminder that what happened that day wasn't just about me or Langford Dynamics. It became a symbol for so many. It's been a wild ride, truly. From the quiet halls of a corporate building, mopping floors, to standing on stages, advocating for change and helping shape the future of a global company. The threads connecting my past life to my present one are so clear now, woven together by language, resilience, and the sheer audacity of an unexpected moment. It's a story I'm still living, still unraveling, and one that continues to surprise me every single day. My working relationship with Mr. Hayes evolved into something I never could have predicted. It's more than just a boss-employee dynamic now. It's a genuine partnership. We challenge each other, we brainstorm, and there's a mutual respect that's deeply ingrained. He often jokes that I'm the only one who can truly understand the global puzzle pieces now, and he trusts my judgment implicitly, which is a wild thought considering where I started. He still brings up that day too. Not often, but occasionally, he'll look at me across a conference table, or during a quiet moment in his office, and just shake his head, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "You know, Ava," he'll say, "that was the day everything changed for us, and we almost missed it." It's a shared memory, a pivotal point that binds our professional lives, and a constant reminder of the incredible, unexpected nature of opportunity. There's a subtle satisfaction in witnessing the shift in perception from others within the company. Some of the older guard, who might have initially been skeptical, have now embraced the new direction. Wholeheartedly. They've seen the tangible benefits, not just in terms of new deals and market expansion, but in the richer, more diverse talent pool we're attracting. It feels like we're genuinely building a more enlightened, more future-proof company. This journey has also made me incredibly aware of the countless other Avas out there. People with immense talent, deep knowledge, and unique perspectives, who are simply overlooked because they don't fit the expected mold. It fuels my dedication to the Catalyst Initiative even more, knowing that for every success story we help create, there are millions more waiting for their chance to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. It's a powerful lesson in humility for me, too. I was given a chance, a completely unexpected one, and it transformed everything. It makes me question how many other chances are out there, waiting to be discovered, waiting for someone to dare to speak up, or for someone else to dare to listen. It's a profound thought, one that drives me forward every day in this incredible, unpredictable life I now lead. That day, that single Tuesday, feels like a hinge in my life. Everything before it was one chapter, and everything after, a completely new one. It taught me that life isn't a straight line, and sometimes, the most incredible opportunities arrive wrapped in chaos. It also showed me that sometimes, the biggest barriers aren't external circumstances, but the limitations we place on ourselves, or that society places on us without us even realizing. I often reflect on how easily that moment could have been missed. If I had stayed quiet, if I had let the fear of judgment win, none of this would exist. The deal would have crumbled. I'd still be cleaning floors, and countless young people wouldn't have the Catalyst Initiative as a beacon of hope. It's a sobering thought, and it reinforces my belief that every single person has a unique contribution to make, whether they know it or not. The experience has given me an entirely new lens through which to view the world. I see potential everywhere now, in the most unlikely places, in the people who are often overlooked. It's like a secret code I can now decipher, a hidden language of possibility that was always there, but I was too busy just surviving to notice. It's a beautiful, humbling realization. Even the smallest interactions now hold more weight for me. I try to really see people, to acknowledge them, to offer a smile or a kind word, because you never know what someone is carrying, what hidden depths lie beneath the surface, or what extraordinary abilities are just waiting for a chance to shine. It's a fundamental shift in how I interact with the world around me. My life is incredibly full now, in ways I never imagined. It's a blend of high-stakes corporate strategy and deeply personal philanthropic work. The two are inextricably linked, each feeding the other, creating a sense of purpose that resonates through every single day. And it all goes back to that one unbelievable, chaotic Tuesday. It's a story I'm still trying to fully grasp, a miracle that simply unfolded before my eyes. Even now, after all this time, there are moments where a wave of disbelief washes over me. It's not just that my life changed, but how it changed. From being utterly invisible to becoming a key player in a global corporation and launching a foundation dedicated to empowering others. It's a narrative so wild it still feels like it belongs to someone else, not me, Ava, who once just wanted to finish her shift unnoticed. The Catalyst Initiative has taken on a life of its own, far exceeding my initial hopes. We've managed to secure significant funding, establish international partnerships, and develop programs that genuinely address the systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities. It's proof that when you combine vision with genuine commitment, the impact can be exponential, touching lives in ways you might never have imagined. My old cleaning uniform, that blue smock, is long gone. But sometimes, in a quiet moment, I can almost feel the familiar weight of it, the scent of cleaning supplies. It's a phantom limb, a memory that grounds me and reminds me of the incredible distance I've traveled. It also serves as a potent reminder that worth isn't determined by a job title or a bank account, but by something far deeper, something intrinsic. What's truly remarkable is how seamlessly it all feels integrated now. My work at Langford Dynamics, particularly the international strategy, often intersects with the goals of the Catalyst Initiative. It's like the universe conspired to bring all these disparate parts of my life together into a coherent, meaningful whole. There's a beautiful synergy that makes every day feel purposeful. I used to think my life would follow a predictable, quiet path. Now, every day is an adventure, a chance to learn something new, to meet incredible people, and to contribute to something bigger than myself. It's a legacy, not just one I'm building for myself, but one that actively empowers others to build their own. And it all started with a desperate CEO, a missing translator, and a cleaning lady who decided to speak up. There's a deep, quiet gratitude that settles over me when I think about it all. Not just gratitude for the opportunities, but for the chance to rediscover parts of myself I thought were lost forever. The Ava who was content to be unseen, to blend into the background, has been gently replaced by an Ava who knows her worth, who understands the power of her voice, and who is determined to use it for good. It's a profound sense of self-acceptance that I wouldn't trade for anything. I've learned that life has a funny way of revealing your true path when you least expect it. My journey wasn't a carefully planned ascent. It was a sudden, dramatic pivot, born out of crisis and desperation. It makes you wonder how many other people are walking around with incredible, untapped potential, simply waiting for their own unique moment to shine, for the right set of circumstances to align. The ripple effect of that day continues to spread. The success of the Catalyst Initiative is inspiring other companies to think differently about their own social responsibility. It's creating a new standard, a blueprint for how businesses can be profitable and purpose-driven. To think that a cleaning lady's unexpected confession could ignite such a movement still blows my mind sometimes. My conversations with Mr. Hayes now are less about immediate business deals and more about long-term vision, about legacy. We talk about the kind of world we want to build, the impact we want to have beyond the quarterly reports. It's a shared purpose, a commitment to opening doors and empowering dreams, and it's a far cry from the hierarchical corporate structure I once observed from afar. It's an ongoing story, this life of mine. Every day brings new challenges, new triumphs, and new lessons. But at its heart, it's a testament to the fact that you never truly know what's waiting for you around the corner, or what hidden strengths you possess, until the universe decides it's time for them to be revealed. And sometimes, those revelations come in the most ordinary of places, on the most ordinary of days. There's a subtle, almost quiet understanding that now exists between Mr. Hayes and me. It's beyond words, a shared recognition of that extraordinary day and the path it forged. It's in the knowing glances, the unspoken trust. He sometimes calls me his secret weapon, and while he says it with a grin, there's a serious truth behind it. I was a secret, even to myself, and then I wasn't. I often find myself looking out of the expansive windows of the executive floor, gazing at the city skyline. It's the same view I would glimpse when I was cleaning, but now, everything about it feels different. It's not just a view, it's a canvas of possibilities, a testament to what can happen when one small act, one unexpected voice, is finally heard. The city looks bigger, somehow, more full of hidden stories. The feeling of gratitude still washes over me, strong and pure. Gratitude for my father, for the languages he lovingly taught me, for the foundation he unknowingly laid for this incredible turn in my life. Gratitude for Mr. Hayes, for daring to take a chance on an unknown, desperate cleaning lady. And gratitude for that crisis, that missing translator, because without it, I would still be invisible. It's a story I'm still processing, honestly. How does one explain such a dramatic shift? So sudden, so complete. It wasn't a gradual climb, it was a catapult. One moment, I was worrying about scrubbing dried coffee stains. The next, I was translating millions and unraveling corporate missteps. The sheer speed of it, the almost magical timing, still leaves me speechless. And the biggest question, the one that still hovers in the back of my mind, is why me? Why did it happen that way, on that day, to me? Was it fate? Pure luck? A cosmic joke that turned into a blessing? I don't have the answers. All I know is that it did happen, and it changed everything. So, here I am, sharing this with you all, a person who used to clean these very floors, now sitting in an office overlooking the city, helping to shape global strategies and build a foundation that gives hope to those who've been overlooked. It's not a fairy tale. It's just what happened. It's my life now. The memory of that day is still so vivid. The panic in the air, the desperation in Mr. Hayes' voice, the utter absurdity of me, Ava, stepping forward. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. And every time I recount it, even to myself, a part of me still can't quite believe it. It really did feel like the universe decided, in that single chaotic moment, that my story needed a different direction, and it just happened, like a door opening when you least expect it, leading to a path you never even knew existed. There was no grand plan, no intricate setup, just a desperate need and an unexpected voice. And that's where the story sits, even today. It didn't build to a dramatic climax with fireworks and a neat explanation. It just unfolded. And then, once the immediate crisis passed, and the new reality settled in, it simply continued, evolving day by day into what it is now, a profound, unexplainable shift. So when people ask me how it all happened, how I got from there to here, I can only tell them the truth. One morning, a translator didn't show up, and I spoke Arabic, and somehow, that was enough. It simply began, and now, here I am, still a little surprised, and incredibly, profoundly changed.